Hey everyone! In a world that is just screaming for our attention 24/7, how on earth are we supposed to find any real focus? Well, today we're going to dive into a really powerful message about how to cut through all that noise and lock in on what actually matters.
So let's just start with a quick check-in. Right here, right now, where's your attention really? I mean, think about it. If you're anything like me, there's this constant war going on for your focus, right? You've got notifications popping up, deadlines breathing down your neck, all these worries, and they're all fighting for the same piece of your mind.
And that brings us right to the heart of the problem. We are living in a world of distraction. The big idea we're digging into here is that these distractions, they aren't just little annoyances. No, they are actively pulling us away from what is most important in our lives.
And listen, it's not just about our phones and screens, okay? The distractions we're talking about here are way bigger. They seep into every part of our lives, our ambitions, how much money we make, our whole lifestyle. Heck, even just the daily worries and struggles we all face can totally eat up our mental energy and just yank our focus away from having a real connection with God.
This quote really just hits the nail on the head. We are too distracted by the things of the world, things that don't matter. Wow, you can feel it, right? This sense that we've just gotten completely buried under all this temporary stuff that, in the grand scheme of things, just doesn't have any real lasting value.
Okay, so what's the big deal? Why is this lack of focus so dangerous? Well, because it leads to something called spiritual drifting. And that's not a good place to be.
And here's the thing you've got to get. This isn't just some problem on the outside. It has really deep internal consequences. The moment our focus shifts away from God, our entire inner world, I'm talking our thoughts, our mindset, how we even see reality, it all starts to become unhealthy.
And this right here just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows us the two paths so clearly. On one side, you focus on Christ, and what do you get? A healthy mind, faith, courage, hope. But look at the other side. You focus on the world, and it leads straight to worry, overthinking, fear, doubt, and that feeling of just drifting, or even worse, sinking. I mean, the contrast couldn't be more stark.
So, to make this idea crystal clear, we're going to look at one of the most powerful stories in the entire Bible. I'm talking about Peter walking on the water, right out of the book of Matthew. Okay, so picture this. It all kicks off with this absolutely incredible moment of faith. They're in the middle of a terrifying storm, right? Peter sees Jesus walking on the water, and instead of just cowering in fear, what does he do? He calls out. He's actually ready to do the impossible. And the craziest part, it works. He actually does it. Peter gets out of the boat and starts walking on water. But here's the super important detail. He was walking towards Jesus. His focus, his entire direction, it was completely locked in on him.
And here it is, the turning point. The Bible says, but when he saw the wind, that's it. That's the moment everything changes. His focus snaps away from his destination, Jesus, and onto his circumstances, the storm. And you know what happens next? Immediately fear just takes over.
He started to sink the exact moment his focus was broken. This is such a perfect picture of how letting our problems, our environment, all that noise distract us, it just leads straight to failure and fear. And this is so important, even as he's failing, even as he's sinking, look at what Peter does. His first instinct isn't to panic and swim back to the boat or yell for his friends. No, his first instinct is to cry out to the only one who can actually help. He looks right back to Jesus.
So Peter's story, it's this incredible model for us, right? If distraction leads to sinking, then how do we get and keep our focus? Well, let's get into the practical advice on how to do exactly that.
The answer is really framed perfectly by this verse from Hebrews. It's not about just kind of hoping we'll be focused. Nope, it's an active, intentional choice. It's about fixing our eyes on Jesus. So the big question is, how do we actually do that?
Well, it boils down to 3 really practical steps. First, remember the cross, and not as some historical event, but as a constant, right-now reality of the love and sacrifice made for you. Second, trust Him in all things. That means no picking and choosing what to trust Him with. It's about giving Him full control, not just the parts we can't handle ourselves. And third, and this is a big one, call out when you fall. Just like Peter, when you mess up, and you will, make sure your first instinct is to turn to Him for help, not to money or friends or work.
And this all leads us to a final, and honestly pretty urgent call to action. Because this isn't just about finding focus for a minute or two. It's about maintaining a constant state of spiritual readiness.
And that whole idea is captured perfectly in this metaphor from the Gospel of Luke. Keep your lamps burning. See, this isn't about passively sitting around and waiting. It's about being active, being watchful, being prepared for the Master to return.
And make no mistake, the stakes here are really high. The message is that Christ isn't coming back for a weak or mediocre church. No, he's coming back for a bride that is vibrant, alive, and just burning with passion, zeal, and a deep commitment to holiness.
So what does being ready actually look like day to day? Well, it's really about the fundamentals, isn't it? It's things like seeking God in prayer, really serving and loving the people around you, worshiping in spirit, and just actively, intentionally keeping that fire and passion for Christ burning bright. And just to drive home the absolute gravity of this whole choice, the choice between distraction and focus, we get this incredibly stark, powerful statement. Away from Christ is death. Whoa, that just frames the entire conversation, doesn't it? This isn't a matter of preference. It's a matter of spiritual life and death.
And so, that leaves us with one final, very personal question. It's a challenge, really. A challenge to look inward, to push past all the noise and distractions, and to honestly ask yourself, is my lamp burning?